Yeah. Look.
Gotta get the clap, you know?
I think I got a vendetta.
Hey guys, what's up? Abby here from Safari Pedals. I'm currently here in Brooklyn, New York with Squids.
What's up, guys? Happy to be here with Abby. I'm glad she could come by and excited to chat.
Thank you so much for having me, first and foremost.
Thanks for being here. I mean, this is great.
Before we dive into the juice and everything, let's start with who you are and what you do.
My real name is Nick Squillante, but everybody calls me Squids. I am a mixing and mastering engineer based in Brooklyn. I have an Atmos studio here. I do a lot of mixing in Dolby Atmos, just mixing every day, doing the thing, you know, engineering here and there, depending on the project or if I have to. But yeah, I've just been doing this for a while, you know? Can't say much more than that. I got my start over at Electric Lady Studios over in Manhattan. I was assistant engineer to Michael Brower. And he was a great person to learn from, like incredible human being, and just grateful for my time there for sure.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So I'd love to dive in because like spatial audio has been your thing. So I'd love to hear kind of like what draws you to that aspect of the mixing world.
Sure. Well, spatial audio for me and Dolby Atmos and just immersive format is like when you do a stereo mix, the whole part of it is to get the listener to have not only like an emotional feeling when they listen to the song, but to even more so like try to create like a physical interaction where like they're in the song, you know? And so with stereo, we have tricks, and stereo to me is still like, you still need stereo, you know? There's not enough consumer action to get to Dolby Atmos everywhere you are at all times. It's coming.
Yeah.
But what Atmos does is it literally puts you inside a song, right? Like we all go to concerts because you want to see the artist, you want to feel the artist's energy and stuff. And I think this takes you a step closer in putting you, you know, almost in their head of what they're thinking. Like there's so much you can do with Dolby Atmos. Number one is you can really accentuate lyrics, you know, in a way where, remember there's this one lyric by this artist, Sam DeRosa, and she says, "Am I going crazy?" at a certain point, right? The stereo production, great producer. Basically, he distorted the vocal and then it comes out into a cleaner chorus. In this moment, I was like, okay, I did the stereo mix. I know this is a moment. How do we make it even more of a moment? And I took that "Am I going crazy?" and I just spun it around your head, and it landed back in center right on the chorus, and that's when it hit. And to me, like, that's a huge piece of what I'm drawn, or why I'm drawn to spatial audio. It's like, you're able to make these moves that turn that emotional only feeling into a physical reaction. And I always say, like, if you can introduce these moments into songs where you have, let's say like you have a vocal behind you and you can get your listener to go like this or something, it's like you've immediately just crossed this threshold of like, whoa, you know, did that just happen, you know? So I just, it's so awesome. And it's also like you have technology that increases like tenfold and exponentially throughout, you know, every 5 years or 10 years, it's like double or whatever it is. You know, I don't know the actual metric, but it's just crazy. That, you know, when I was in high school, I had a flip phone and I have an entire computer in my pocket. I have 2 iPads, you know, like it's just it's so over the top now, technology. My point in saying that is music needs an upgrade also, you know, and they've tried it with, you know, surround sound. But until now, you have this object-based mixing where instead of selecting speakers that you want sounds to be in and being locked to speakers, you can take these objects and you can put them anywhere in the room. So it's almost like when you mix, you almost want to take the speakers out of it, right? You want to imagine you're just in this ether of sound, and then you take your objects and you stick them in these spots that emotionally will make you feel a certain way and sometimes physically get you to react almost. I mean, I can't talk about how many songs I've had like an effect at the end, and it's like maybe like a door slam or something, and I'll turn around, I'm like, oh my God, and every time it does the same thing, and I know that it's in the song, but it's still like, it's so new. And I think, I mean, with all things new and with all things change, there's always apprehension at first. It takes time, obviously, to like sit in the right place with people, but at the same time, I'm a big tech guy. I like tech. You know, you're not gonna see a piece of analog hardware anywhere. You know, I'm past the days of having like a dusty pot of like inside your LA2A or something and having to go get it fixed. Like I have plenty from UAD. They did a great job making it. The Safari Pedals plugins, you know, those sound freaking incredible. I mean, what's the Lion Master, right?
Yeah.
I love that on like sub bussing, and just, it's got such a power to it. But to go all the way back to the tech thing I was talking about is there's always innovation and there's always forward motion. You have to kind of accept forward motion, because forward motion, you can't look too far in the past, because like then we'll all be wishing we had the 1/8-inch headphone jacks on our iPhones still. Those aren't coming back, and Apple's behind Dolby, so I'm with it. I think it's an incredible format. I think it's just always smart to keep your eyes forward, as opposed to like, this was better when we didn't have this or something, because there's so many naysayers out there still.
Yeah.
But yeah, so long story short, that's what draws me to it. If you can't tell, I'm very passionate about the format. I really think it's more than just an extra deliverable, which sometimes labels will treat it like that. It's an extra way for an artist to communicate with their fans in a new level.
That's awesome. And I love how like you found like a space to add your flair.
Right.
It's like you got your flavor.
Yes. Space-wise, being here in New York, it's funny because it's like, I get a question and you all asked me before we popped the camera on, it's like, it's surprising like you're not in LA, right? It's like, so it's obvious, like music, entertainment, LA, duh, right? But for some reason, just being in New York and having something that's outside of the LA bubble, not to say we're not in a bubble, because we are, it's like you tend to get these reach outs and stuff. It's like, I want something different. Or like I'll have people from Nashville that don't want the Nashville thing. I want something different. And because New York is like, it's just such a diverse piece of like the country, and like who creates music here and what kind of music gets made, it's so different everywhere. Like you can go into a room and find country artists.
Yeah.
And then next door there's hip hop. It's awesome like that. But in that same breath, it's like, there is something about just like the New York surroundings, and it's just I feel like it has a bit to do with just like the day-to-day being like hard, punchy, and like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's just like, so that definitely translates into my mixes, and it's a fun thing to be one of the guys in New York still doing it.
Yeah, I'd love to also hear kind of like what to you defines New York sound, and as a mixer, like how that meets your mixes, like you said, kind of like the New York punchy.
Yeah. I mean, New York is a feeling all the time. Like there's constantly something going on. There's always something. The hardest part about being in New York is to find space and to find like your center in like a city that literally never sleeps, or as they say, I sleep. Sometimes. But like that, I don't know, just being able to like come into my studio and shut the world out and focus up on someone's music is like so, I don't know, revitalizing or enjoyable, and it helps you find your space, like in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But also like you think about the song and maybe what this person was feeling, and I think to wrap all that up, like for me, the New York sound, or like what I like the most is, I'm very influenced by like more hip hop leaning mixes where like subs are really, they're used to their fullest capacity. Whereas sometimes in pop music, you won't get like that feeling you get, or that heart punch from the kick. You'll know the kick's there, but you won't like feel it hit you in the chest. Whereas like hip hop, the 808s and the kick drums and like all the percussion has found its way into pop music. But I feel like in New York and what I do here, it's like I try to blend those two worlds of like, even in rock songs, like you'll find a ton of rock songs that are like really, they just sound like, they sound great. They sound like what rock sounds like Green Day, American Idiot. I love that record. But I love the fact that there's the ability to take new rock and like add that low end and add that punch of like that kick, and that's even like a deeper snare instead of like, I love the old Blink records, and go listen to some of those snare drums. They're like pingy and like, tight, and I like a deeper snare, which you don't find, maybe 80s music has those big snare drums. But I don't know, I've kind of combined a lot of eras and a lot of time periods, and if you want to call that the New York thing or my thing, that's punchy drums, fluffy low end, and a great vocal. Like to me, the vocal, obviously, and to everybody, I'm sure, is the most important part of the song, I would say. But it doesn't really stand on its own unless your rhythm and your bass are doing the right thing and grooving together, and like it's like what's gonna sell a record. It's like you have to identify those things, right? But for vocal, I can't stand the mixes where I feel like I turn it up and I feel like the vocal is just in my speakers. Like I can hear the speakers, as opposed to like getting a vocalist to come out of the speakers and be basically sitting on the desk in front of you. Like just right in your face. I love that. So like I always shoot for that. And with Atmos, it's much easier because I can literally take objects and push them forward in the room. Yeah, I mean that to sum all that up. That's my thing. That's what I like. That's what I lean towards. And yeah, we could call that like the New York thing, I suppose.
The New York sound.
The New York sound.
I loved like the analogy you gave of like having kind of like when you're mixing, like how do you get the singer on the desk rather than in your speaker? I'm going to take that, guys. We're going to quote that here for sure. There'll be a
over there. Sorry.
Yeah, over here somewhere in the edit. It will be for sure.
Floating around.
Yeah. That's sick. So guys, now you also know what the New York sound is. Now we all know. I love that. You can coin it, trademark. You heard it here.
Yeah, trademark. I'm sure I'll have to beat a couple other people out for it.
Yeah. On this little kind of like Abby's travel thing series, I want to ask all of the engineers and producers I'll be chatting with the same question at the end to get their take. It's a little controversial.
Sure.
So are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Oh, man. That is a tough question. So, being from New York, I feel like I would get obliterated for even acknowledging that. So, I'll tell you what I like. I'm a big pepperoni pizza guy, as down the middle as it goes, I like a margarita slice from time to time, but I think I've had the pineapple on the pizza before. I've had it. Don't tell anybody.
You might have to move after this.
Yeah, right? I'm about to LA.
they're gonna
Hawaii, right? It's like the Hawaii slice.
Send you over the river to Jersey or something.
But I've had it. It's interesting. It's not something, like I don't think I've ever found myself hungry and being like, I want a pineapple pizza.
No, not that.
It's the type of pizza you find at like a party when all the other slices are gone. And you're like, I guess I'll eat this. So, roundabout way of saying, it's not my first choice. It's definitely not my fifth choice.
So, it does not belong on pizza, you would say, overall.
Listen, I think pizza's diverse. I think pizza can be wild. Listen, I was just in Italy. I had pizza in Italy. Pizza in Italy, fantastic, obviously. But there's some places, like in Naples, we're visiting like some distant relatives out there. This was my first time in Italy. This is years ago, not the most recent trip, but I remember them making homemade pizza, and it was not round. It was just like dough pizza. It's just like laid out in the way that you wouldn't expect. And I was like, this is pizza. So like to me, pizza is what you want pizza to be at a certain point. But when you're in New York, it's the classic,
New York slice.
New York slice, yeah, you can't beat it. So I don't even know where you'd get that here, honestly.
Probably not around these parts.
Yeah, if anybody knows, slip into the DMs and I'll try a slice of pizza on my story or something.
But you might really have to move after this. But you did keep it pretty down. You did keep it pretty down the middle. I was impressed.
It's not my thing. It's not my favorite. It's a party slice. It's like the last pizza. You're like, oh, it's on the bottom box. I hope it's pepperoni. I hope it's like buffalo chicken slice or something. And then you're like, oh, I'm hungry. So
kind of with like red Solo cups spilled. I feel like it's also
it's sticky. It's something sticky on the table.
It was like the pizza's been sitting in like a beer soup a little bit.
It's like a lukewarm temperature.
And the cheese has kind of like gotten a little sadder.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For sure. Guys, by the end of the series, we will find out, does pineapple belong on pizza? I'm going to make a meter, so that will also be somewhere.
Oh, that's funny.
Somewhere here. Couldn't be too serious,
Well, it is controversial, I will say.
For sure. I'm trying to stir the pot of the music industry and just cause chaos. That's my job. For sure, but thank you so much for having me over.
Thanks for being here. I didn't have to go anywhere, so I'm...
True. But I really appreciate you letting us take over your studio.
Yeah, my pleasure, and thank you to the Safari Pedals team. Thank you, Abby, for coming by, and I'll obviously continue using the pedals in my mixes and the plugins. They look beautiful. Let me just put it that way. You know what I mean?
I appreciate it.
It's always great to open one up and just be like, wow, this is so nice. Sometimes I can get lost in it.
You just get lost staring at the pedal so long.
Yeah, I also love just like not to go too far. We're obviously finishing stuff up, but I love how responsive all the settings are. Like it's not like something that you have to tweak a little bit or tweak a lot to hear a little. You just kind of like move it and you immediately get a feeling or a sound, and it's like, whoa, that was quick. And quick and easy is like so important when you're mixing like 2 songs a day, and that's important,
Yeah, no, I thank you for using, and repping the plugins.
Of course.
Guys, I guess until next episode thing, not episode, it's not an episode really, but until next video, I will catch you guys somewhere else in America. I'm not sure where yet, but we'll find out next video. Awesome. So I guess we can cut the edit there.
They say they want it,